All right, we're getting started on part two. See if I can take this off. My head is cold in here. The air is beaming down, but let's see. See if we can get this done without. All right, so we're going to go right into, we're still in chapter 9. We're taking a look at analyzing survey maps and plat records. Okay, we just talked about a little details on the warranty deed, the grantor or grantee, on the mortgage, on regarding the liens, understanding the relationship between the two, the position of multiple mortgages. Now we're talking about analyzing survey maps and plat records. Now, if you want to get complete details, you want to go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 gives you the grid, the parcel grid. It teaches you how to understand it in details. Okay, so when we're talking about meets and bounds, go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 gives you the detail on all of this that we're teaching. It gives you step-by-step instructions. It gives you illustrations. It walks you through whether or not you're going to do research of the land records in the county or whether you're going to do it remotely. All of that information is in chapter 4. It's a long chapter because it details all of that. Now what we're doing now is we're refreshing ourselves on all of the details that we learned in chapter 4, analyzing survey maps and plat records. So, as an abstractor, your understanding of survey maps and plat records is essential because it's setting the boundaries for the property. So you've got to identify any potential land issues. All right. So what we're going to talk about is, firstly, let's talk about recorded plats. So when we look at property boundaries and easements, a survey map provides detailed representation of a property's dimensions, its boundaries, and its structure. Okay, those things are very important. All right, so it's crucial when we're comparing these measurements with recorded plats to ensure the accuracy. That's why I told you that when you're doing the title research, you're going to have to read the legal description. I know it seems cumbersome, but in this way, the job is cumbersome because you are being hired to be the eyes for the title insurer, for the title agency, and for the title examiner. You see, the title examiner is going to take the abstract that you prepare, and they're going to go through and scrutinize it and examine it to see what they need to do in terms of clearing the title, in terms of any exceptions, any restrictions that need to be written in as they issue this title commitment to the lender. So and everybody's hanging on this. You've got realtors hanging on this. You've got lenders, loan officers hanging on this. You've got borrowers hanging on this, buyers, sellers. Yes, it's cumbersome, but you got to read it so that they don't have to come back to you and ask you any questions. Okay. So lot dimensions, when we're looking at the legal description, you want to confirm the property boundaries. You want to make sure that they're aligning with any previous surveys that have been done. Why did I tell you? Because what I tell you before, because when you're looking at a bag chain, if you look at a bag chain, look at a current deed and the legal description varies, it could be because there's an out sale somewhere that you've missed. It's important that you report those so that they understand all of the property that's being encumbered. They need to understand what they're holding as collateral. Yeah, so you want to make sure that, because there could be some discrepancies. That it's your job to read that description and then confirm the property boundaries, make sure they align with any previous surveys or legal descriptions indeed. So if you see any discrepancies in measurements, it could be ownership conflicts that are involved, some type of title defect, or just that there's some out sales that have taken place that maybe have not been mentioned. You'd be surprised how, I'm not even going to go into that because I don't have a lot of time. But yeah, you want to make sure that the amount of acreage that's being represented is actually the amount of acreage that's listed in the current deed that's being used as collateral. All right. Another thing, you want to make sure that there are no easements that are on that property. A lot of times when you're doing research, they're going to ask you for a copy of any easements or restrictions that may be of record. And you want to be able to include those in your report. It just depends on what type of report it is, right? These easements legally define any rights that have been granted to others to have access or usage of a portion of the property, like utility easements, shared driveways, any type of easement that's identified of record. because that has something to do with the owner's control over the access of the property. So you got to put that in the report because that affects the lender as well. All right. It also affects whoever you are transferring the ownership, who they may be transferring the ownership to. Encroachments. Look for signs. Remember, we already talked about how to define encroachments. Okay, we're not reinventing what we've already gone over. I'm just refreshing your memory and making sure that this is solidified, because a lot of this also is going to be in that exam that I'm going to be sending you. Remember, if you didn't get a copy of the deed that you're going to have to use for your exam, let me know now. Text me, email me, let me know whether or not you can comment on this. I think you're probably going to pick this up in our email. So if I'm sorry, yeah, email, and also in the Facebook. So if you're looking at it on Facebook, go ahead or YouTube, go ahead and comment that you didn't get a copy of your deed, because it's going to be a part of your exam, because you're going to need the deed in order to be able to answer the questions on the exam. All right. So encroachments, when we're looking for signs of unauthorized use of the property, such as a neighbor's fence extending into a property. I just talked to someone yesterday where a possible encroachment is taking place, where one of our clients owns a business, and the people, the neighboring business, had a fence installed, but the fence seems to be encroaching on our client's property by several feet. And so that's something that, of course, we have an attorney that works with us, and we've already presented that to the attorney because we did their closing. And so the attorney that prepared their documents is already looking into that because we had a survey done. But anyway, discrepancies in measurements can lead to ownership conflicts or title defects. And that's so funny because someone else came and talked to me about something similar. I don't know the people that they were referring to, but it's funny that this is going on right now. I guess it may be happening to quite a few people right now, but that's considered an encroachment. All right. And it's real important that you, when you're reading, if there anything, yeah, just remember, encroachments can lead to all kinds of disputes, but they can be addressed before the property is transferred if you include all of the documentation, such as any easements or restrictions that may be noted. And sometimes people will come in and make a public report of certain encroachments that are unauthorized. If you see any documentation or any affidavits or anything like that that's of record, make sure that you make a note of that in your report. When we look at plat records, we're looking at properties that are in subdivisions and they've got zoning compliance, and plats and officially recorded maps. When you look at these type of layouts, then you're going to be taking a look at legal lots and configurations. Some properties are part of the subdivision that impose restrictions on land usage. Also, zoning classifications. You want to check with local zoning regulations, especially if you're already physically in the county, but you can pull that up most of the time remotely as well. Zoning regulations to verify whether the property can be used for residential or commercial. It'll tell you what it's zoned. And also industrial purposes. Any kind of restrictions that might limit construction or future development, depending on who the purchaser is. Now, those are things that you're not going to know. That's why you just want to make note of them in your run sheet. All right. Yeah, if there are any recorded improvements, you want to ensure that all recorded structures match the property description. All right. Really, really, really important. So always cross-reference any survey maps with any county plat records or legal descriptions in the deed. Because what you want to do is identify any inconsistencies or encumbrances that could impact ownership or development rights in that property in the future. And I'm going to stop right here. Hopefully we'll get a chance to take a look at reviewing court orders like judgments. We talked about judgments in the recording just before this, but we want to get into things like, remember I talked to you about default judgments regarding foreclosures? Yeah, we want to get into talking about those things, and even things like title disputes, like quiet title actions, adverse possession, any type of partition rulings. These are things that you want to understand. Because you don't have to get involved with any of the application of the uh, processing of any title work other than preparing the abstract. But you want to understand the terminology because you may see something of record that regards this, and you want to know how to include it in your report. So firstly, you need to know what it is. So we want to make you aware of these things. I want you to go back and take a look at chapter 4, because all the things that I just went over are in detail in chapter 4. And I want you to do it because it's going to be a part of your exam. Why are we doing an exam? One, because you get a certification from this course. And that certification goes in your packet when we're getting you signed up with different vendors and vendor relationships. You're going to be signing up as a vendor and vendor client relationships, and that certification is going to be in your packet. We got to make sure that you know your stuff, because we're telling them that you know your stuff. And these are clients that we've worked with for years, but they need somebody in your particular state. And so we want to make sure that you are prepared. So if you didn't get a deed in your email, let me know, because the deed is what you're going to need when you receive this exam, because you're going to be using the deed to answer the questions on the exam. All right. I hope I've gone over everything that you need. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You can always comment, ask questions, give me a call, text. That's what I'm here for, to help all of you guys so that you don't have any problems. Remember what I told you in Minnesota, what we're doing there, in Georgia, what we're doing there. Vitally important that you guys heard me and that you're getting these exams done. I need the exams right away, because that's going to help towards your certification. And you're going to start getting them consistently now that I'm about to open up your particular states, because I need you to have these certifications finished, and I need you to also have your certification. Have your exams finished, so that I know that you know what you're going to be working on in terms of these title reports. All right. Any questions? Just reach out. Y'all have a good one. Oh, wait a minute. I still didn't go over that. Well, yeah, we'll go over that later. All right. Chapter 4, review chapter 4. And we just talked about chapter 9. I hope everybody got this book titled Abstracting Made Simple.